is necessary to fail, because it is a necessary factor if you want to grow, if you want to change, if you want more out of your life than what you currently are. And the one thing that we don't have in control is change. Change is going to happen regardless if you're ready for it or not. Of my experience served me to guide and serve others through the same experiences that they're going through. Something that I was able to surpass, something that I was able to put in time to heal, find tools, teachers, therapists that allow me to expand myself. We're all souls living a human experience. Cater to that. And I know we're all here meditation, we all hear spirituality, like it's something that separates all of us, but it's not. It's unity. So how are you feeding your soul? How much space are you taking for you and your soul and your heart?
This is the Human Future Podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology and spirituality with some of the world's brightest minds. Together, we paint a vision of the desirable future and discuss the actionable steps to make that vision a reality. And now, without further ado, let's begin. Welcome. Thank you, Anna, for being here. Super excited for this conversation. It's been long due. You came into the studio for the first time sometime last year. I don't remember exactly, maybe like a year ago.
Has to be.
And we've been meaning to do something together. So maybe this is the actual official beginning of doing something together and see how it goes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I fell in love with your asset of studio, the way you work, everything, your purpose, your idea, your creative ideas from the moment I met you. So for me, it's an honor to come back to studio. And I always say timing is perfect, you know?
Always, yeah, exactly.
We're right on time.
Right on time. So I think a great place for us to start is by you sharing your powerful story that you have, that you carry with you.
Oh, it's a big start.
Yeah, and then whichever version, long, short version you think would be in this format to share for people to hear. I mean, ultimately, we also creating this conversation will be viewed by people who care about you, those who know you, and things like that. So in that format, just put yourself in that frame and share that story.
Okay, so what story did we start in? Let's see. Well, I was born in Venezuela, and in a place called Monagas. It's more like a town, a little town. And at the age of 9, I moved to the U.S. I moved with a single mom and my brother, older brother, and we started from zero. So I think that's one of the things that I admire the most of my mom is the bravery of leaving everything behind. Before I didn't understood until now being older, right? And moving into a new country by ourselves, having no family at all here, it was a rude awakening in many aspects because when I came from Venezuela, I was still a child. I was still very naive. Coming to this country, I entered 5th grade, and the awakening for me was everybody in 5th grade was so much more advanced mentally, right? There was a lot more inner trauma in the sense that when I stepped into 5th grade, one of my classmates was getting arrested for rape, you know, and we're in 5th grade. I had no idea what that was, right? So people doing drugs in school, and I was just like so thrown off of what reality have I hit now. In that same aspect, my mom was struggling as a single mom in a new country, new language, just as immigrants. So I saw her struggle, and then at an early age, I wanted to work. I wanted to help in some way, somehow. So at the age of 10, I started working, and I started babysitting, which it also led me to learn English. I think it's such a blessing for me to start working at that age, led me to learn responsibility and the English part. So I was playing with toys and things like that, and it led me to learn a very beautiful language, and now I can utilize both. Fast forward, growing up, I dealt with a lot of health and emotional issues, and I would say challenges more than issues, right? Through that time, as I started working, I started feeling more pressure of being perfect, of being accepted, right? In a culture where back in the day in my country, they aim for women to be this beauty standard. So I already had restriction of eating. I already had a bad relationship with food. Coming here and working busy, and stress and pressure that I put upon myself, not that my mom did for me, but seeing her struggle created more pressure for me. I never ate. So I started developing more health issues such as epilepsy, anemia. I started having seizures throughout the time, and desperation amongst everything that we're dealing with. There was not enough funds to cover that. So creating more pressure on me, right? Moving forward, I continue building and creating, and I continue working and studying. At the age of 14, I found myself at a state where the gym was like my coping mechanism for emotion, because I didn't know how to cope with emotions when I was growing up. Yeah. I actually wanted to be more into my masculine energy, which was like more of a provider, you know, of like, you don't see my emotions, I got it all together. And as an early age, I stopped crying because I wanted to show strength. In my mind, I thought crying and vulnerability was weakness. And I let go of that emotion of like, I don't want to feel anymore. I want to numb. I want to numb. So by the age of 14, when I started working out, weightlifting, it felt such a great feeling for me, especially mentally. I was dealing with depression, suicidal thoughts at the moment, and it led me to navigate in a different path. It taught me more discipline. It taught me to look forward towards something instead of just working and studying and working and showing up, right? And I fell in love with it. As time progressed, I was still navigating with business. I was, at the time, a makeup artist and a hairdresser. So by the age of 18, I already started like kind of like having my own type of business. And I entered the bodybuilding world, right? Again, we're still dealing with all these health issues, emotional issues, where my only coping mechanism at the time was working out. I went and led with books. I wanted to know how the mind worked, how the body worked. Why is it that we behave a certain way? So I started studying a lot to kind of understand what was going on inside of me. And from that aspect, it led me also to cope with them a little bit more. My thoughts, my suicidal thoughts, my depression, why I wasn't feeling, why I was so numb. I read and read and read, but truly didn't experience, right? I was so stuck in it. So at 18, when I go into the bodybuilding world, my thought was, okay, this is probably something that's going to teach me how to eat, because I don't eat, right? And nobody in the entire journey of me having seizures asked me, how's your diet? What are you eating, right? They did all these studies on me. They put me on medication, which I refused to take. And nobody actually asked, like, how is your nutrition? How is your habits? Like, what's going on? What's going on in your gut? Like, no one, no doctor. And when I enter the sport, I obligated myself to eat more proteins, animal-based at the time. And I wanted to look a certain way. Again, we go back to an inner child trauma where beauty in my culture was everything, right? So I'm like, okay, hey, I can look kind of perfect in my eyes and then maybe learn how to eat. Great, let's jump in this. Well, the opposite happened. After 10 years of competing and navigating with a lot of different businesses, my health kept deteriorating. And I stopped the seizures, which was great. After 18, they stopped, they minimized. But the eating disorder was there. The body dysmorphia was there. The untamed emotions and numbness was even more severe. And I realized that I was trying to validate myself with external things, which I think a lot of us can kind of relate, right? We seek validation outside of us because that's what it was taught. We were taught that if we want to be happy, go eat out or go find somebody to make you happy, right? But never to seek upon yourself, like what's going on here. So of those 10 years competing, my health went worse. I started not having a menstrual cycle, my hair loss, not sleeping. Mind you, I was in the best shape of my life. Like my physical body looked amazing. My engine was failing, right? And it got to a certain point of my life where I said, I'm done suffering in every aspect of my life. I don't want to suffer in my physical body because, again, all my joints were hurting. I was taking hormones, anabolic with the sport. And I was just like, why am I doing this? I'm 28 years old at the time. I'm so unhappy. I'm great and super successful in business, but I feel nothing. I feel empty. Like, what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? And it took that moment of saying enough. It took the moment of understanding that me providing for everybody else wasn't fulfilling me, right? As I thought it would. Me being super successful in other things or being seen by other people didn't make me feel worthy or successful, or it didn't make me feel fulfilled, right? So that point was where I actually got my biggest spiritual awakening. I feel like that was the point where my life completely shifted. And I think in that time, I went through so much more emotional traumas. And again, we can do this super fast and then we can navigate through it. But I was molested as a kid. I also been raped, and I was also the verge of suicidal depression. And then I had an ex-partner that committed suicide as well. So my entire journey of lessons led me to a lot of suffering, but at the same time, a lot of experience to navigate to find myself, right? To fully come into self of revisiting what's going on here. What is that I'm holding, right? Everything that we go through in my experience has been done for me to create a story, to create experience, to build a character that whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing here, right? So to seek upon what my true purpose is in life. So a lot of my experience served me to guide and serve others through the same experiences that they're going through. Something that I was able to surpass, something that I was able to put in time to heal, find tools, find teachers, find guiders, therapists that allow me to expand myself, right? And in the capacity that I am right now. So when we talk about stories, I feel like there's so many stories in one, and we have the mind, the body, and the soul. And this is where I navigate with all my clients. It's like, if we focus on one thing, let's say I was focused too long for the physical thing and I neglected my mental health and I neglected my soul, then it comes back to me, right? Because one thing can be responding, but the rest doesn't. So that big awakening taught me that I need to come cohesive with everything. Everything is aligned. I can't just focus on the physical body. I got to focus on how my mental health is doing. What can I do with that? Not neglect it, not act like it's not there, because it is there. It doesn't go away. We have these dopamine spikes at times that makes us think that we're all right, but we're really not, right? The root cause is still there. So working on my soul and working on a deeper level, when I hit that biggest spiritual awakening when I was 28, led me to the woman, most importantly, that I became today, right? Before that, I was navigating with numbness. So within this journey, I've also cultivated a great community with social media. I started the social media in 2019. That's when I started. Again, for me, when I look back, it could be another coping mechanism that I was navigating with my emotions at a time, to be seen, right? Especially from my mom. I wanted this approval so bad, to be seen, to be worthy from her. So I developed 2019, I opened social media. And at that time, I was just blogging. I was just like sharing just fitness. I didn't share my beauty world. I didn't share what my business was. I just wanted to share fitness because, again, that was like my coping mechanism for my emotions. And then it started expanding, started growing. I started connecting with so many individuals around the world that it actually led me to a bigger purpose. Sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, that we have an idea of exactly what we dream of doing, right? A slight flash of what our purpose is. But yeah, we don't know how it will happen or how to get there. We just know, hey, it's clear I want to do this. In that moment, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's what I want to, my heart feels like, right? So when this sparked, it's like, oh, this is the route. And that's when everything started just expanding.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Before we kind of dive deeper into your fitness mindset life that you're active now and flourishing, I wanted to ask you about the time when you moved and this whole issue of depression and challenge as a kid. Do you think you came with some of that, or do you think the environment that you were put in, it was the environment that resulted in that? So basically, I see in America this whole big challenge of suicide, depression, mental illness. It's very activated here in America, where I'm from. Or at least when I was growing up, it wasn't. I don't know what it is now. I've been away for like 15 years now, so I don't know exactly what's happening now. But back then, that wasn't a thing at all. And so I'm interested, what was it? Was it some baggage that you also came with here, and then it also didn't help that you were placed in the environment of like cutthroat competition? It's a very competitive, America in general is a very competitive environment that creates this anxiety to always not be left behind type thing. So how was that for you?
I actually think and believe that it has to do with a little bit of both. It has to do with the root cause, which is your inner child, right? Wherever you were raised, it has a part of that because it comes from our parents, it comes from ancestors. And then the environment, your place, also enhances things. So I believe that everything around us is a messenger to tap into something that we have to open up that door, heal that part of us, or just be more aware, right? So wherever we're placed. So same here in Venezuela, I never actually heard of depression. It's a third world country, but it's not the best. People just, again, it's not the best idea. If I was placed in that scenario, would I be this person? Would all this happen? I wouldn't know. America did become a place where it showed me so much more in life. And I feel like that's the aspect of we're always seeking for more and nothing's ever enough, right? We're always seeing outside of us of like, oh, we can achieve this and this is even possible. We see so much more of possibilities that we have in our own countries, right? My own country, they only see that. So there's no growth. So yes, the environment plays a huge toll, but my inner child trauma, starting from not having a father that wanted me as a child, when I moved to the States at 9, in Venezuela, I don't recall ever being traumatized about him not being in my life. But when I hit the US and I started seeing families play together, mom and dad, it triggered me. I'm like, why don't I have a dad? Why is he not present, right? So I feel like the environment brings out everything that you need to see at the right time, whether it's in the States, whether it's another country, but wherever your journey is to lead you to prepare to open that door and for you to be more conscious and aware and even to heal. And I feel like it's a gift, that we're able to tap into that consciousness or tap into that trauma wound that you can open up and kind of heal it. It is from environmental. It is from what we see. It is from the people around us. Is who enters our life, right? And this is where we get triggered.
For sure.
Right?
That you have gone yourself through like healing that trauma, the within you, what advice would you give to someone who is very young at this stage in life and they're struggling and they don't see the way out and there are no solutions that worked for them? Do you have like a piece of motivation or advice or something that, an attempt to consider a different perspective for them?
Great question. I feel like what even my younger self wanted to know was that it is not your fault. Starting from the guilt part, because we feel guilty. We feel like it's our fault that happened to us. We feel like we caused it for any particular reason. So the first thing I would say is not your fault. And know that it's not okay. That whatever fear is happening is just an awareness to understand that it's not okay. Seek for help. And if somebody doesn't want to listen, seek for another source of help. But don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on trying to understand you, see you and hear yourself, hear and not neglect how you're actually feeling. Because at a specific time, not only does blame plays a huge toll, but also we know deep down inside it's not okay. So we say, okay, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And you keep telling yourself nothing happened, nothing happened. Again, we're putting Band-Aids over and over and over into something that's not going to go away. It's going to come back. Later on in life, it's a root cause of your own behaviors towards relationships, towards your relationship to self, the lack of love and the lack of seeing yourself as worthy, right? So I will encourage you to speak up. And no matter what fear leads you, just go through it. Because once you go through it and you understand that it is okay to speak up, and you have to see yourself and accept yourself and understand that it wasn't your fault, but it's something that happened for a divine reason. It doesn't make it okay, but there's a reason behind it all. So what was the reason that happened? And how can I learn from this? And what is my message that I can guide others that are also going through things, right? Because as we talk about depression, we also talk about the inner child traumas of being abused. It's very, very common, you know? It's extremely common. Whether you're female or a male, it just happens so often. But most of the times, we're so in fear of speaking because we're in fear of being judged, right? And then we start judging ourselves through time. So it took me, again, I'm 31 years old, you know, it took me more than 20 years to acknowledge this. And it happened more than once. And I feel like if I would have spoken up, it wouldn't continue happening. But again, I learned not to blame myself, and I learned to understand that whatever path I took was to cope and completely have compassion with my own journey. You know, I didn't know best. So if you're in that scenario, please, please, please just seek for help.
Yeah, and I think blaming others starts with you blaming yourselves. It's just not blaming anyone or anything. It's just accepting the reality of things and moving towards the desirable direction. Yeah, I don't know. In what situation is blame useful? I don't know. Why do we even have that?
I actually don't feel connected to blame at all.
Right.
Even my entire life, I felt like blame was a form of victimization, right? So I never wanted to be a victim. And that was like an ego-based also for me. In my ego, I never wanted to be a victim. I was like, okay, it didn't happen. That was a coping mechanism. It didn't happen, right? No, but what if it did? It did happen. How do you feel? Just let yourself feel. And it's okay to feel, because at the end of the day, we're humans, right? And understanding that, again, when you blame someone, you're blaming yourself. So it doesn't come from blame. It doesn't come from victimization. You don't have to understand why it happened. It just comes from a form of acceptance and forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, when we accept and forgive, it's not to the other person. It's to self. You're freeing your soul. You're freeing your soul from carrying something that does not longer serve you. It was a journey. It was a lesson. It was an experience. Forgive yourself for it. Just, it's a part of moving forward in life. So for me, forgiveness was one of the biggest lessons, because if not, I was carrying a lot of rage, anger, a lot of anger. And I never understood why. I always said, oh, I have anger problems. That was my thing. I have anger problems. But what it was all these suppressed emotions that I didn't let myself feel. So forgiveness is such a true form of love to self. Again, everything comes back. We're all a mirror, right? Acceptance, forgiveness, and letting go of trying to understand. Just trust that it is what it is, that it has a divine reason and purpose why you were chosen for that path.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say, try not to like be caught up in the strive to understand. In my life, I noticed that what keeps me going and what pulls me forward is my desire to understand, actually, and not to like, oh, why the world is so shitty type understanding, but more about how does the world work, like basically mapping out the whole reality and having a greater understanding of what life is. Correct. That type of understanding.
The curiosity factor,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I grew up being the question one. Like, I always questioned everything. I wanted to know everything, right? And when I didn't know, it hurt me, not only mentally, but also emotionally. Why can't I understand? So I would not rest, right? And I feel like it's a form of acknowledgement of when to do that, because it does serve us for a greater purpose. Knowledge is power. Instead of power, it's just, again, it's an experience. But not knowing and having peace with the unknown is also very powerful. because as much knowledge as we get, we still don't know what's going to happen, right? So if we're so afraid of not understanding or not knowing, how do we navigate through present and future, right? How do we overcome an obstacle where we're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen? By not knowing and being okay with the unknown, being okay with not understanding and still going through it allows you to experience more. So for me, it was also navigating that it's okay that I might not know that thing, but I can still, I'm a student at all times. Sure. So for me to welcome the unknown and not understand it, it's also a way to try, or maybe later on, the information will come to me like, oh, this is why I didn't understand that at that point. Right. But I also feel and believe that we always get the answers. Sooner or later, we always do. What you didn't have before, now you're looking forward, you're here, look backwards, connect the dots backwards, and you're able to have all the answers, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's almost like don't let not understanding stop you from making the next step, from moving forward. Because oftentimes you're like, oh, I can't make that step because I'm afraid to make a mistake because I don't understand something. But as you're saying, like, there will always be a level of, so the reality is just so complex if we don't understand probably most of it. And we're still here living our life and we're fine. And yeah, so just not be caught up with not understanding something and not acting and pursuing. As you were saying earlier, before we started recording, you or maybe now you mention it, like having a vision, having a purpose, you know that that's what you meant to do. You don't know how you're going to get there. You don't understand all of the steps that need to be taken, but you're still stepping one foot at a time towards it.
Yeah, if you think about it, when we get these little visions or deja vu or ideas where it comes from a creative side, we don't know. We honestly don't know. If we let ourselves of the unknown get in the way, then what do we experience? We don't. And I feel like that is our biggest factor in today's society, that a lot of people want safety. They want the safety net. Right? If I step out of this that I already know, I can fail, right? What is failure? What is mistakes? They're necessary experience to therefore perfect or even improve in life, right? We didn't come out here already walking and running and knowing how to drive a car, right? We had to go through lessons. We had to fall many times in life to therefore be able to walk, run, ride a bicycle. So everything in life is necessary to fail. Failure, the relationship we have with the word failure, I will invite a new meaning, a new feeling towards it, because it is a necessary factor if you want to grow, if you want to change, if you want more out of your life than what you currently are. Which again, the one thing that we don't have in control is change. Change is going to happen regardless if you're ready for it or not, right? Same as the unknown. You think you know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we don't even know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. So the knowing it's a factor that if we can grab a book and study and research and internet, it's great. But that's just 1%.
Yeah.
The rest, you got to experience. And this is where the book and the science and everything lies with experience. Just going at it, no matter what. I always say, if you're in fear, go through fear. It means something even more amazing is going to happen. Could it be something that you imagine? Probably is going to be not something that you have not imagined, but it's to the greatest purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. Everything in life is exactly what we asked for. It's just when it comes to us, we don't have a manual to say, how the hell are we going to go through this, right? You just have to go through it. And this is where the self-trust comes into play, right? I have this practice that I try to embody every single day, which is I hold myself accountable for my word. Right? My word is my most important thing to me, because it starts with self. Because if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I'm hurting my own self-trust. I'm hurting my own self-belief. So that accountability has to start with me, not with what I say to people. It's what I say to myself, right? With who I'm looking in the mirror most of the time. So practicing something for my mind, for my soul, and my physical body helps me align also the accountability to my word. Having something for your mind, read a book. Try to navigate something that is not a screen, right? In screen, we Again, what we see, we also observe, right? So we're observing energies that actually is not within ourselves, which means we tend to be more lost, right? We're seeing something and comparing ourselves with all these social media platforms of what we think life is for others. What we think, we don't know. Because everybody shows exactly what they want to show. But you really don't know the reality of their mental state, their emotions, as we all navigate through artists having committed suicide, right? They were so happy. What do you mean? They have it all. No, it's a perception. So having something to work with your mental health is super, super important. Work your mindset with things that you can touch. I feel like when being present is such a beautiful tool. So having like a book, having a puzzle, just going in nature, it helps a lot with your mental state. Spiritual, your soul. We're all souls living a human experience. Cater to that. And I know we're all here meditation. We all hear spirituality like it's something that separates all of us, but it's not. It's unity. We're all the same, right? So how are you feeding your soul? What are you giving to self? How much space are you taking for you and your soul and your heart? Check in with it. This is where the emotions come along. Right? When we say we neglect and numb, we're neglecting and numbing also our soul. So it's like feeling. Just sit and feel and sit with your emotions and navigate. Where is it coming from? What is the lesson behind it? Not to look outside and blame, but to see reflection upon self. What is this person teaching me? What is the situation showing me? What is it? Curiosity, right? Of the unknown. Curiosity to learn for self. And the physical body, I always talk about like what we eat, what we feed our body, right? When we work out, working out is a certain percentage of how our body looks, but also how mobile we are, right? This is the only vessel we have. So why not carry it with so much nutrients and mobility so you can last as long as possible in this life, right? Feeling great. Because at the end of the day, all we want is a feeling, right? It goes back to the core. I want to feel good. I want to feel loved. So when I practice those and I embody those and I call them my self-love, or better yet, my non-negotiables, it leads me to connect more to my purpose, through my purpose, because we are in a generation where everything is social media, AI, competition, or what you're seeing outside, or who's doing this, who's doing that. If you're not in self-awareness into who you are, you get lost. Easy, right? In comparison, like nobody, like we're all one. There's nothing to compare, right? So I feel like in today's generation, it's very important to build strong non-negotiables. Maybe better yet, self-love activities that you're able to check the box every single day and every week and hold yourself accountable for that. As you're building character, you're building more things that you yet don't know. So it's a beautiful practice that I love sharing always.
Yeah. Maybe share your techniques of self-reflections, holding yourself accountable. Is it a journaling practice or using some kind of tools, apps or other modalities that you implement for yourself that's serving you?
So for the longest time, a lot of people would tell me how disciplined I was, right? I was never really taught disciplines. I embody it through the survival mechanism. I didn't have a choice. Like growing up, I needed to work, I needed to survive, I needed to support the sport itself, the athletes. It's like everything by time, by schedule, the way we eat, the way we train. So I embodied this disciplined behavior towards things I did in a much higher level because of a survival mechanism. I didn't have the luxury to not do it, right? It was either that or that. So I think in some aspects in my journey, the not having more options creates that, which is a non-negotiable, right? And when I talk about non-negotiables, the practices that I do is now more than ever that I'm more in touch with my soul and my mind, not just my physical body, is waking up and not rushing. If I know I have a schedule set, which I work with my schedule, with my calendar, I make sure I wake up maybe 2-3 hours earlier where I'm able to just like breathe, not waking up in this, I gotta go. It makes a huge difference. Like give yourself some space to just breathe and be in full gratitude. So that's the practice that I had to like constantly do to embody, and so it could become a habit. Wake up in enough time, breathe, stretch my body, move my body a little bit, not exercising yet. So I'm there stretching. From there, I tap into meditation. And I like having the meditation in the morning that aligns with my chakras, my third eye, or even just gratitude. I feel like some days my energy is not fully charged. So waking up could be challenging. So if I wake up and I listen to some gratitude or affirmations, that aligns me to be more positive, to see more than just an emotion that I have stuck inside of me, right? Because I believe we can change our emotions. I believe that we can shift by action, right? We might feel a certain way. By all means, you're able to feel many different things. But how we shift, I feel like is a choice of activity. So if I feel groggy and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, go to the gym. Go for a walk. Like, you don't even have to go lift weights. Go for a walk. Go in nature. Don't take your phone. Like, don't look at the screen. Just go and connect with self. And you're going to see that your energy level will spike up so highly, especially in the morning, because it's when your brain cells are more receptive. And that way, as soon as I start my day like that to recharge, everything else aligns. I make some time to work out. And then I, therefore, start my work after working out. And I make sure to have my food ready. I feel like having your food ready and nourishing your body is a great tool for mental clarity. So I have a good nutritious food. I eat a lot of carbs. I eat a lot of fats, which helps with my brain. And I stay aligned. I stay on track with everything. And I allow myself some space to make mistakes. You know, I heard the story of a very successful woman. And she said that her dad used to celebrate mistakes. He would come home and said, where did you mess up? Tell me more. And I took that in as like, wow, I want to do that for me. You know, yes, I'm grown, but what if I celebrated my own mistakes? What if I'm like, okay, what mistake did I make today? That means I tried something new. That means I made an effort. That means I went through it, even if I was scared. So through my day, as I navigate, I give myself some space to keep on writing, but see my mistakes. Oh, okay, I did this. I tried that. How can I do this better? Not dwell on what failure we label it, right, is, but just like see it, acknowledge it, move forward. Let me try a different way, you know? So my practices have held a lot of accountability for myself because as I'm doing little habits, therefore it builds more trust and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to touch on the topic of bodybuilding psychology. And, you know, I've never really been into bodybuilding personally. And I think I understand why people go into it. But I wanted, since you've gone through the whole cycle of it, and I want for you to explain, why do you think people get into it? What type of, what are the main reasons what you think why people get into it? And what type of benefits people get? I mean, I think it's the same question, yeah.
So I can speak for self.
Yeah.
Definitely for me. And I've heard more in the community of bodybuilders that we're all seeking for, I mean, if we think about what the sport is, right? We're going through pain constantly. So we put our bodies through pain to therefore alleviate what? The emotional states, to alleviate the mental health, the mental pain that we carry. So every time we train, we're always pushing harder to dive into pain and go through pain even tough. Like even, I can't even explain how much pain they put themselves through, right? After they break their muscle tissues and they go above and beyond, they feel this relief, right? Which is dopamine. We feel great. So and then later on, we start grabbing into, I want to train more and more and more. So for me personally, as I navigate through that journey, it was a coping mechanism to numb more emotions. So instead of sitting with my emotions, I went train, you know, everything train, because training led me to feel better about myself, right? And then we're in a stage where we're being judged by the way we look. So seeking for worthiness could be another aspect that I navigated with, right? Being seen was another one. So as me, when I entered the sport, I wanted to not only look perfect, so perfection was a thing. I wanted to be worthy of. I wanted to be seen. And I wanted to prove a point that I can do something that not everybody can do, right? It takes a lot of mental strength to overcome every stage of your competition, right? It takes a mental toll and takes a mental strength to get up and do it no matter what. I feel like it's also a sacrifice that you take upon society, you take upon family, because when you're in that state of competitiveness, doesn't matter what event is going on, doesn't matter whose family's birthday it is, nothing matters. What matters is you got to wake up at 4 a.m. and train, you know? So you become very selfish to obtain this, right? So, and I'm not sure if I completely answer your question, but in the sense is now in today's era where I'm at, how much I've navigated with the things that I dealt with, for me, not only was it a coping mechanism to numb my emotions, but to also seek validation. That's why the sport did for me.
And would you suspect that that's a very common reason for others?
Could be. It could also be the inner child trauma, right? Of maybe bullying, of being weak. So you got to build some strength. It could be the not finishing something. So I'm going to start something, I'm going to finish this. It's a lot of endurance. There's a lot of resilience. For this sport, you need to break the mindset of normality, right? There's no such a thing of being normal when you're in that state, right? And I feel like that's for every type of athlete. Like if we talk about a CrossFitter, if we talk about really competitive sports, you need to have and obtain this mindset that nothing around you matters, not even the way you feel, that the only thing that matters is to show up, you know, is to just get through it. And that's the mentality shift. You therefore build this mechanism of not only numbing, but also just go. I'm here to just do this. There's nothing more, right? So I find that any sport, and especially bodybuilding, it has its good and it has its bad, right? Nowadays, they utilize a lot of anabolics, right? So that's a part where you're hurting your physical body, abusing anabolics. And then therefore, the body starts to fail and then your life doesn't expand. In what sense? We're having a lot of death at an earlier stage for athletes. So that's another bad, not so great thing about the sport. What I see in the positive side, it's how much it builds in a character. If you're able to go through it and then learn your lesson and get out, I feel like you're able to obtain high achievements. You're able to implement the same strategies that you have implemented in a sport, in a physical term, to everything else that you do in life, with the same passion, with the same discipline and consistency. You know, that determination that, hey, no matter what's going on, I'm going through it. You know, that part of the sport, what it builds as resilient, I feel it's a great hat to wear all over for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a great tool to train your discipline, your grit, your like perseverance to get through struggle, and I believe that that's obviously not the only way, and it's also a very cultural thing. Like you look at different cultures, not let's say, I don't know, I've never been to China, but for whatever reason, I feel like they don't have that. Maybe they're starting to have the looking in a certain way is a priority. I feel like for them, maybe it's not. So it's also a very cultural thing, how you look to show who you are.
Today's era, because of social media, I feel like everywhere in the world, everyone's trying that.
Yeah.
You know, like we have athletes all over the world. And I went to China, and it's crazy because it was like a fitness expo. And you see them, they're very aware, they want it so bad. They're not as common, but there's definitely athletes over there that look absolutely insane, you know? But I feel like it's spreading. And in a good way, it's giving people awareness of their health, right? So we have the bright side of the sport. It's giving people an incentive to, hey, if you want to look this way, because it's what feeds the eye nowadays, is everything that we look at, right? So you look at that and you want that. So then maybe it's going to create and build your character at that specific season of your life to go for it. Maybe the sport's not for you, but now you obtain the tools to utilize it in other aspects of your life. So I find that the sport itself, it does create also great impact in society to create awareness, right? Maybe not to obtain that body of a competitor, but maybe to create this awareness of like, I should be eating better, I should show up. And, so everything kind of has the light and the dark, right? The yin and the yang. So.
Right. And so kind of staying on the track of the human future theme of what do we need to do to build a better future in this frame of mindset of bodybuilding, health, all of those things. So maybe let's break them down and talk about maybe what would you shift in society, what would you keep, what's working, what's not working. And so maybe let's start with staying on the track of bodybuilding. What's you think could be eliminated from the practice, let's say, of bodybuilding? What's not serving us?
Well, abuse to the physical body, abuse to everything that they do. So you don't need to obtain hormones and anabolics to get in the best shape of your life. You don't. You don't need to go in through cookie cutter diets and restrictive diets and extreme dieting to get to that body. We need to find more consistent and longevity into the terms of what we want to do. I feel like we live in a society where everything we want is tomorrow. We're not patient. So embodying the structure of, yes, awareness and into the health and fitness world, but not doing the extreme, because you don't have to face that in order to obtain that. I feel like what we need the most is to be patient and to take care of ourselves in the best possible way by allowing ourselves to learn how to do that, right? Not just going for the quick route, the quick pill that's going to make me lose 20 pounds by tomorrow, or this anabolic that's going to make me gain all this muscle, because it doesn't work that way. Even for the people that take supposedly the magic pill or the anabolics, they have to work a lot, like a lot of work. And they put in time and they put in effort and they put in so much more than what you see on a picture or a video. So again, we go back to perception. What we see is not truly the reality that you're obtaining, right? Whatever you perceive comes from your own eyes to believe, right? It comes from a self-reflection. So if you see a picture of somebody in fitness and you're like, oh my God, this is ideal, in what way? Question, like, in what way is this ideal for you as your persona? Because you're judging as a character of how you would like your life to be, right? So in that aspect, I would say for that sport, get the awareness, go for it, right? But don't be extreme. Don't go for the easy solutions, because nothing in life is easy. And what comes in fast will leave fast, right? So.
And where is how do someone find the healthy balance of slowing down or stopping somewhere? Let's say, oh, this is enough, and because I do see oftentimes somebody gets into the bodybuilding, at some point they're already having a great body, maybe just stay in that shape, and they keep going to the point where they become like a non-human looking apparatus, like really big, and it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look like your body's having a good time. I don't know.
Oh, no, not at all. And the heart is having a lot of issues pumping blood, everything is suffering. And I don't think as a sport, as an athlete, you ever want to look natural. Like for the athlete, they want to look not normal. Like that's the thing. You want to look like not your normal Joe walking on the street, right? And for them, again, we go back to nothing ever being enough, right? We're going back to trying to fill in the hole that we don't know where it's coming from, but this is the only thing I know how to do and how to cope with my emotions, and this is it. So then you want more and more and more and more. And then when you go in the competitive route, the judges, the competition itself is asking for more and more and more. So whoever is placing and whoever is winning, that's the body that the judges are looking for. So if you're less than that, you're going to be like, how can I get more? Right? So it's a never-ending route if you're not conscious about it, if you're not self-aware of what your physical body is going through. of what your mental state is going through. Where is your soul aligned in this whole route, right? So we go back to the healing aspect of it, right? Your question was?
Yeah, like where can someone find balance? Like maybe someone is on the journey of building their body, building their strength, or and they're just learning about this whole space, like what you've gone through. Like you've seen so much of it already, and I wanted to hear your kind of advice on like what's a healthy balance. Yeah.
So where to find balance is a huge word for me, because I feel like when you do everything with intention, I mean, balance is just being, right? It's just existing. The part of how do they find kind of like how to get there or what better works for them, I will always suggest to find a professional, get a coach. I feel like my entire life, even for business, I had a coach, I had a mentor. That's how you start to learn. That's how you start to navigate. And then you jump and start studying yourself, do your research. We have a phone at all times, 24/7. So instead of being 24/7 on social media, maybe go on and read an article, read a study, scientific, like sign up for master classes. You know, there's so many tools nowadays that we have in our hands, even free, that you're able to educate yourself in a deeper level on how to get started. So highly, highly recommend a professional. I mean, I'm a coach. I only coach women. And that's the one thing that I give my clients is I'm teaching you how your body works. Because the idea of being a coach is not for you to rely on me all the time. It's not for you to rely on me for the rest of your life. It's for you to learn, right? And for me to serve you and educate you on how your body properly works. We go and navigate your hormones. How are your levels? We go and navigate your gut health. How's your microbiome? You know, what foods are you digesting? What's going on internally? What's causing inflammation? And as more awareness and clarity I give them, the more they know about themselves, right? Guiding them with nutrition and training. This is how your body works. This is how you do this, right? Yeah. So I feel like education is the biggest ally to your journey. Don't just settle because somebody looks good. Go for it. Like study, hire somebody, you know, do your research. As much as you want that body, as much as you want to be healthy, that's as much time and effort you should be putting to learning about it, right? So internet, books, coaches, definitely always get somebody professional.
I'd like to touch on the topic of the social media influencer. Where are you seeing it's all headed? Like you've been at it for 5 years, 6 years, something like that, right? What change have you seen throughout those years? Where is it headed? And where would you like it to go, maybe?
Okay, so social media, I feel like we're in the best era because anything that you want to create is accepted. You know, we live in a society where this little platform can let you to have contact to all the way to China or any part of the world. You don't have to be there presently. So it's a huge way to help, to serve, to have a word, to express anything you want. So the social media, as we're navigating, obviously it's going to get more and more in detail, more intense. We have AI, which is a huge part. Like if you're neglecting AI, I'm sorry, that's the same thing as once upon a time people were like, oh my God, internet. You know, now everything's internet, right? AI is the same thing, right? Now as everybody's like, oh my God, AI. No, AI is necessary, right? It's making everything that we're going towards is for us to have more availability at a faster pace. You know, it's for convenience. Everything's convenience. You barely have to leave your house to do anything. So again, it has its good things and its bad things, right? But as far as social media, I feel like it's a great way to utilize it, how we see it, to create, you know, to allow yourself to express yourself in any way possible that you've been in fear of or that you just don't know and you're trying to seek for help. So social media, I love it. I find it to be that it has changed not only my life, but it has changed many people's life in every aspect. I mean, I've seen kids in part of Africa dancing, and now they have a whole movement and they're raising money for their country, you know? So it's very, very powerful. So my advice is have a good relationship with it because it's the future. It's our present moment and it's going to just expand, you know?
Yeah, I think, I always mention that it's so much more important the intention you're putting into it and versus the, oh, I'm using this evil media that's promoting hatred or those like negative emotions. Yes, it does promote, like the way the system is set up is to farm your attention so they can sell you more things, but you could still have your conscious intent while you're navigating those kind of dirty waters. And that's the only choice that we have, whether to completely cruise and let it smash you off the rock or something, or really hone in on like paddling towards the future that you desire and communicate ideas and spread the light using this medium. It's like an amplifier that could certainly help you project your messages and project your energy out in the world.
Before it was TV.
Yeah. Right.
How long has TV been around? Radios. What does radio do? Give you news. And TV give you news, promotes items for you to buy. Everything, it already existed. If we really are conscious with what's happening in the world, is becoming more accessible. Not only that, you're able to be the main character of everything, so it's like of your own story of what you're trying to create. So it has given people way more opportunity to create a life, to build jobs, to build careers, to, like it's moving into a direction that if you don't accept it, you just stay stuck behind. If you accept it and you kind of dance with it, you understand that you have a huge future in your hands that you can't even imagine, because that is the one thing that changes right now in people's life, in any factor, in any way, in any industry. So before TV and radio, you didn't have access. You were just listening and watching.
Consumer, yeah.
Now, you're the main character, period. You're an ad, So utilize it, play with it, and build this beautiful relationship towards it. If you don't like certain things, then do the opposite. Do what you like, show what you like to show. Talk about, like, we are so focused on what everybody's doing, and we have such an opinion about how people should be living their life or how things should actually come. Why don't we do that for ourselves?
For sure.
It's all projection. How about we bring it in and just act upon it?
Do you see more people having their own personal brands in the future? Do you see us having more influencers in the future than do we have now?
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, kids are growing up. They're 4-year-old and they're influencers. It's like, it's such a normality, right? Of tapping and grabbing your phone and talking and expressing. I feel one of the most beautiful things is that you're showing people just express. Everything's being so welcome and accepted in a way that just by showing up and expressing helps you utilize your creative side, which we tend to forget when we're just work. Yeah. So I love it. I love that it brings out more creative into people. It pushes you to be creative, right? And yes, we for sure are going to have so much more influencers. Yeah.
Do you see the future in which everyone has to share their voice? Or do you think we will never reach the point where like everyone has to participate in some kind of like voice sharing activity?
That would be great if everybody could share their voice.
I agree.
I don't think that it's a have to. I think that it leads to a choice, right? I feel like it's not going to be an obligation, but it's more like an invitation of like, what do you want your life to be? As we see people, and this is how we navigate. If we see that somebody has done it, we get more optimistic of doing it, right? Somebody did it, so I can do it too. Right? It takes that bravery to be the first one to start something new. It's easier to jump in a trend than create your own trend. Right? So if it's a choice, and if, again, it goes back to inner child traumas, again, how we express ourselves, it goes back to how we see ourselves. Some people won't have the courage or even the capacity to see past the pain. So the expression it's unattainable for them, right? So it will be great if everybody can share their voice. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, or I think maybe to the degree how we participate, let's say in I don't know, voting might not be a good example, but just participating in the public activity, like, there's a public space, you don't throw garbage. That's one way of contributing to society, but maybe at some point there will be most people who are willing to contribute anything in society would be through sharing their voice.
Yeah.
Because I think everything else will be taken care, like the order in the 3D world will be taken care of by like robots and systems and automations and things. But the chaos will continue in the mental space until we continue finding consensus and like people sharing their voice and expressing how maybe a certain aspect of their life has not been represented, and that the only way to solve it is by like talking about it.
I love that.
No.
And honestly, when you're speaking, what brings me up is the word humanity. You know, we're leading into a lot of robots or electronics or things that do it for you, AI, right? I think what's going to really stand out is staying humble, is being human, just completely being human and having that compassion through humanity. You know, it does give you self-awareness amongst many things, but taking action as a human with compassion and love is what's going to make the biggest difference.
So spiritual awakening and spiritual practices have played a major role for you. How do you see, so maybe let's talk about, and you do promote that on your social media, like let's say working with plant medicine, is that something you talk about? Maybe speak to the importance of those practices going into the future, as it's definitely a lot more common now than it was like 10 years ago. And then now if we extrapolate that even further, the future looks, in my view, a lot brighter. And so in this trend, like promote the consideration for people to use those types of modalities and practices.
So when I started my biggest spiritual awakening, I tapped in first, as people say, a therapist, right? So I went and seeked a therapist, gave me kind of like the tools. But what I've seen in therapists is that, and I have nothing against them, I think they're utilized beautifully. I'm very grateful for their work, is they're pointing out certain things and behaviors, but you're always on the learning spectrum. It takes away the action part, right? So you're always trying to, and revisiting the same thing and trying to learn the same lesson, right? So I got awareness from a therapist. Once I got awareness, at that point in my life, I've never consumed anything besides cannabis, right? And even then, not even at a certain amount. It was very rare. It was mostly to utilize it for sleep. So then I was called in to do a mushroom ceremony. And I had no idea what mushrooms were. I mean, I'm like, okay, what is mushrooms, right?
Yes.
And somebody was just like, this is something that opens up your heart. We call it los niños, which is your inner child. And as I stepped into my biggest awakening, the one thing that I wanted to reconnect was with my inner child. So I'm like, okay, that's where everything stems in. You know, my first calling that I kept going back towards, my biggest trauma started at 3 years old. And I kept reliving that and dreaming. And it was like I was there all the time. So I went through a few mushroom ceremonies, which led me to profound heart opening into self. It led me to actually start to feel again, to allow my emotions to come into play. And I hold it so dearly because I was able to do it in a space where the people serving it knew. I got to host some with different healers, but it's knowing the practice into what you're doing it for. And we call it ceremonies because it has an intention behind it. You don't just utilize these plants and, oh, let's trip, you know, let's have fun. No, it's more like, let's heal. You know, this is the intention. What intentions we want to put in? What is it that we're trying to tap into or receive? So creating a ceremony aspect to the plant medicines give you a bigger purpose. If we don't have an intention, then why are we doing it, right? And that's the way I think. What is the point and intention of it all? So after I navigated from that, I had a calling for ayahuasca. And when I did ayahuasca, I think 3 years ago, it was my first ceremony. I didn't know much of ayahuasca. I mean, it's very known in Peru. And the culture, Peruvian culture, is like where they serve the most. They do serve it in other jungles. And then I started studying. I'm like, okay, what is ayahuasca? Why am I having this call to this plant right? What is that I need to see? As we call her, the grandmother. And I started navigating. I was like, okay, I don't want to read too much in it because it is extremely touristy nowadays, right? Because again, social media. And that's a part where I will highly advise for people to really seek for shamans that have experience in this, not just because your neighbor serves it, you know? Don't go because it's cheaper. And if not, just don't do it, right? It's like, oh, don't go into a doctor because it's cheaper. Go because he knows what he's doing, right? So this is what I call my visit to a doctor. It's ayahuasca. And when I said it the first time, I had a calling. And usually for these plant medicines, you need to have an adequate amount of nutrition. Like you have to have a specific diet leading to the ayahuasca. When I had this calling and dreaming about the medicine, that week towards it, that I didn't know I was going to sit with it, I was just so sick to my stomach. I started not digesting food. I could only digest fruits. And I'm like, what's going on? Do I have a stomach virus? Next thing you know, there was a shaman that came to the States from Brazil, Amazon, 2 of them, 2 natives, and they were serving medicine for 1 night. Usually, it depends on the tradition. It's 2, 3, or 4 nights. It depends. So this, my first time was in a teepee. It was just 1 night, and I was so scared. I was just like, what you read online is everybody else's experience. And I'm a huge believer that even though somebody tells you their experience, you still have to live your own because you have a different perception of things. We watch the same movies, you're going to think something different than I am, right? So I want to experience. That's one thing that I want out of life is I want to experience everything to the max. So I was very scared. And at first, it took me a little while to kind of tap in into what the medicine was serving me and was giving me because of the resistance. And then when I let her in, it was just so profound. It was so beautiful. It's so hard to explain what you go through ayahuasca. In my own words, it's a complete rebirth. You know, I was able to heal a lot through the medicine. I don't feel like everybody's ready for it, and that's okay. I don't feel like I wish everybody could do it. If it was with the right tribe, if it's with the right adequate amount of knowledge, I would say. But it is not for everybody. And I feel like when we all start this journey, because we start to heal so many things, ancestral things that no longer serves us, and we start to build this new self, and we start to remember who we truly are, we want that for everybody else. But acceptance of the fact that it's not everybody's time to heal. And it takes an act of bravery. To sit with medicine, you have to be very courageous. You have to be extremely brave to relive the darkness. And that's where the path will lead you, you know, to the bright side. So I sat with ayahuasca. I've also done peyote, which is the grandfather. I've sat with, we serve in the Amazons of Brazil with rapé, you know, sananga, their eye drops. Bufo comes from the frog. Kambo is a beautiful medicine for cleansing. So I've sat with multiple medicines throughout this journey, as with great shamans, good tribes. Everybody knew they were expert at this. They've been doing this for decades. I didn't just go anywhere because it was popular, because it popped on social media. So please do your research. But to me, it was necessary to my journey. To me, I did so much healing in a matter of 2.5 years that it would have taken more than 10 years to heal, even more. You know, it's something that led me to see where my root cause was. And as I integrated, because the key to medicine is integration, it led me to learn the tools to implement in my day-to-day. So yeah, every time I get a calling for medicine, I still sit with, not as often. I've done quite a few, and people keep asking me, why do you go? Well, it's a check-in with the doctor, right? We live in a society where we're always absorbing everybody's energy, more if you work with people. So it's definitely, for me, it's a way to connect back to self, to go back into my purpose, my intention, my being, and cleanse. Most importantly, just cleanse and purge everything that is carrying me and weighing me down. Yeah.
So as you were saying it, you know, we have now the renaissance of this whole AI space. It's an amplifier or extension of your mind. But in order to stay grounded, you need some kind of extension for your feelings and for your heart and for your spiritual side of you. And I think maybe in the future, it will be as important as it is for us to use AI would be to use plant medicine that could also amplify, because just using the normal ways of tapping into your center is just going to be too slow for you to have such a tall stick. You need to basically have a much deeper roots to be able to like keep that balance.
Correct. Grounding and having that connection, you know. I feel like it has expanded and amplified my not only self-awareness, but definitely my consciousness. As we start cleaning the body, right? I call them maybe little stains that we carry upon our entire journey. When we start really scrubbing and cleaning the body, we start seeing clearly. We start seeing for what it is. Not as we perceive, but as just what it is, the reality of it, right? And that's where we obtain unconditional love. To me, that's the ultimate freedom. To have unconditional love, which is acceptance about everything. And that's where I navigate. And that was my true purpose when I seeked upon the awakening phase. It was, I just want to have unconditional love. I want to forgive. And I want to feel as a human. Because let's not forget that in this journey, we need to be humans. We need to feel the great, the not so great. We need to go through certain things. And emotions will arise, but that is a part of life. So I want to be human, full-on embodied, right? But yes, the medicine lets you to even navigate with frequencies better, channel to exactly what you want, a lot clearer. Again, when you are so grounded in your self-being and when you see clearly, you can navigate way stronger with your manifestation, with the creative, with the action that you need to implement. Yeah. So, yeah.
People, yeah. What's your relationship, would you say, with technology, with AI? You mentioned that, oh, yeah, it's powerful and I use it. I wonder, I'm interested in hearing how are you utilizing those tools to, for yourself, for your growth?
Oh, my God, AI. What a different world. Honestly, if you haven't tried it, for anybody listening to this, please go. If you don't have ChatGPT, that's the first thing you should have, you know, because it just takes everything in an amplified way. It takes away kind of like the hard work, I would say, right? It is very convenient, right? Where it takes about to research things. It takes you, let's say, back in the day, it used to take days or weeks or months for research. Now it's just there.
Right.
You know, so definitely I utilize it for my self-growth. I've utilized it for, I'm still a very curious human. I have so many questions, seeking so many answers. So I still navigate with all my questions through there. Even recommendation of self-books, you know, even for how to navigate social medias, what times to post, what to create, what's on the niche, what are people searching. So think about as AI being a tool where any question you may have is going to give you an answer.
Right.
You know, so use it. Yes, I utilize it a lot.
And then in terms of coaching in the future, do you see AI playing that role as well, like helping people reflect and see themselves? Let's say, imagine even like a workout coach where you put a camera and then a visual AI is able to see you and tell you like, oh, do this or that. Like, do you
Yes, I definitely do. I think it's powerful, but one thing that you cannot replace in humanity is the personalization, which means when I'm a coach, I navigate with hormones and gut health. AI is not able to test you with your hormones and gut health. It's not. You need, like the same way that you need a doctor, right? You need to have a specific doctor. That cannot be replaced by AI. Right? So I feel like there's certain roles in life that you do need a human to work with. Once you obtain certain information, yes, even today's generation, you can get everything online. You can get a program for nutrition, you can get a training, you can get different apps that are free, that have a person that tells you like, it's already available. But why are people still seeking for help with a human? Because we all need connection, right? We are self of connection. We are a breed humanity is a breed that we all need each other. We all need community. So therefore, AI can be so advanced in so many ways. You still are seeking for connection, right? So don't let AI or the future of what we think is going to happen stop you from creating, from coaching, for evolving as a human. Do not keep on going, because when you have this profound belief that your magic is so powerful and it's so purpose with a beautiful intention, it's going to rise. It's going to go above and beyond, no matter how many competitors you might think you have. In reality, there's no competition. That's why we have 1 million brands of toilet paper. It's like you can have millions of them, but the sun comes out for everybody. Put yourself into a place where you're creating with authenticity, where you're creating with passion and love, and not navigating with survival. Because when we navigate chasing, it has an expiration date. That's when things do come into play, where then you start to suffer and you're navigating and swimming against the current. But when you're truly intentional and you're flowing, you're just simply flowing and it's happening for you, you're in the right path. Yeah. All of the heart. Yeah.
Exactly. Is there a vision of the future that is pulling you forward, something that you're inspired to create or experience, some aspects of maybe speak of the aspects that are relevant to your life, or whatever is important? Yeah.
Yeah. As much as I love staying present, we all have a goal, right? And I don't feel like it's a deadline. I feel like it's a continuous to moving forward. Right now,
it's like a vector that doesn't have like a dead end. It's just to send you on the right direction. It doesn't mean that after that there's nothing else. Yeah.
Oh, correct. So for me, it has been since a young age, very, very young age, I had a vision of creating more than a school for kids, right? More like a place where not only can they study, but they can be themselves, right? So that's always been really imprinted in me of my success. I want to create schools worldwide where it leaves them to have a place to live to a certain age, to provide them with education, food, and just different ways to see more of life, right? Same with animal shelters. I've always wanted those to really help out. I have a deep love for animals. And as of right now, I'm working towards building a strong community. I'm building a platform where I can give so much more value in one single platform to so many people, right? I want to not only speak about fitness and training and nutrition, but also my gut health, about hormones, about the mindset, about practices that we can embody for your soul, your spirit. And I want to guide people and teach them. I want to become more of an educator for everybody out there and continue expanding in that way. My ultimate goal is to host retreats, not only fitness retreats, but also mind-body retreats for mind, body, soul, for all over the world. Create big circles, speaking events, retreats, where we can all come together and work on our own healing, right? Not just, again, physical. I think this is something that I hold very profound, because we're all living in a world where it can be very superficial. But these retreats are based on how to connect all of this mind, body, and soul into one, into how, when we shift that, our life changes. So that is my ultimate goal, is to start hosting retreats worldwide, going to events and speaking and sharing my knowledge to build this beautiful community that is out there.
Yeah. Do you see the future in which we live more like in a tribal type scenario, or still continue living, the majority of people still live in bigger cities, and like cities like New York, Miami, London?
Oof, that's a tough one. I feel like there's going to be everything. There's going to be people that need the city, and there's going to be the people that need to seek a tribe. Like, let's say when COVID happened, everybody was seeking, again, community. Like, where do I go where I can be with people, like the humanity? I think that was a huge awakening for everybody to also utilize that. Yeah, you had internet, you had AI, but it's like, was it enough? No. Again, my point, we need human connection. So at the end of the day, the more awakened we all become, which I hope we can all get there. For those chosen ones, we're definitely going to be seeking tribe. We're definitely going to be seeking movement, communities. But the rest is just, they're meant to just sleepwalk in the 3D world, you know, which is okay. I mean, acceptance.
For sure, yeah. You know, the vision that I see, a natural next step in the human evolution is us creating a global unified new organism, similar how our body consists of cells and it creates a unified organism that functions as one unified entity. In a similar way, we're still having a lot of things to work through on the global scale. We're not still working as one unified entity. There's still a lot of like cancerous type behaviors that are happening, and I think it's not a for sure thing that will stay around.
Right.
It's up to our generation, the future generation, to make the right decisions to make sure we end up in a very desirable type future. But yes, that's why I see technology and media playing an important role in unifying us, creating, building bridges through those mediums. And ultimately, you want to amplify deep human connection, authentic expression. It's not for the sake of sending more messages. It's for the sake of creating deeper connections so people can maybe meet in person in those retreats or spaces in which people can see each other and acknowledge each other and connect deeply. Yeah.
Yes. Again, oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah. So in the kind of in the wrapping up phase, is there any important message that you have that we haven't talked about that you would like to communicate in this format that you could also use as a separate communication piece for as like micro content or whatever you were?
We talked a lot.
We did, yeah. Yeah. That's what we do here.
I love it. Just, I don't even know. I feel like allowing ourselves to face shift, to face transformation, to welcome the unknown, as we spoke about. It's truly, truly the key of living. You know, life is not about seeking comfort. Life is not about seeking this safe space that we think it's out there. Life is about finding it within yourself. And the only way to find it is to experience. By experiencing different things that we're so in fear of, you're able to find yourself, right? By going through it and finding yourself, you're able to forgive and just see the world for just love. And I feel like I would love more of that. I would love for people to tap in more into the compassion and open-heartedness of that we're all one, that we're all equal, that we're all here for each other to serve as a beautiful, beautiful reflection to teach us how to just be, you know, and heal. So don't be afraid.
Oh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Thank you for being here again. And this is, I do feel that this is the beginning of maybe a continuing dialogue of some sort. We will have to figure that out, what that is. And maybe not exactly now, maybe in the not so distant future, but I do feel that there's something there to do.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I love it. Thank you for having me. Beautiful. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, I'll stop here.